Welcome to the deep dive. We focus on one powerful idea,
Mm.
really dig into how it works, the shifts it can create, and, what it actually means for you.
Right, making it practical, not just theory.
Exactly. And today we're exploring something. Well, it can feel both really simple and incredibly deep at the same time. It's about who you really are, beyond the physical stuff,
We're diving into A Course in Miracles Lesson 199.
which states quite boldly, I am not a body, I am free.
Mm-hmm. And it really gets to the core of that age-old question, doesn't it? What's our true nature?
It does. So for this deep dive, what source materials are we working with?
We've got a study guide that really breaks down Lesson 199, an overview of the lesson itself, and also a briefing document that digs into its wider significance within the course.
Okay, good range of perspectives there.
Yeah. And our mission, so to speak, is to really get a handle on this core message. What does I am not a body truly mean? And how can embracing that lead to, well, more freedom, real inner freedom?
I like that framing. Not just understanding it intellectually, but feeling it.
Okay.
So a very warm welcome to Daily Harmony.
Well,
Let's jump right in. I am not a body. Simple words, but like you said, profound. What's the first layer here, according to our sources?
the consistent message right across the board is that our true identity, our fundamental self, it's spiritual. It's rooted in something divine, eternal.
Okay. And the body then is?
The body is seen more as like a temporary vehicle. The study guide uses that term, temporary vessel, which I think is quite helpful. It's not who we are, fundamentally.
Right. But here's the thing, isn't it? Intellectually, maybe we can nod along, okay, I'm spirit, but we live through this body. We feel pain, pleasure, fatigue. It's pretty convincing.
Oh, absolutely. That's the crux of it. Our physical experience is so immediate, so demanding sometimes.
So how do we bridge that between knowing I'm spirit and feeling day to day like, ouch, my back hurts, I hurt?
That's precisely the work this lesson encourages. Our sources highlight that believing I am not a body is so significant because it directly tackles the ego's main strategy.
Oh, just
Identification with the physical. The ego loves the body, the material world. It defines itself by it. And the core's perspective is that this identification is what creates our feeling of being separate and ultimately leads to suffering.
So the lesson is basically saying, hey, ego, that thing you're clinging to, that's not the real deal.
Exactly. It's an invitation to shift focus, to look beyond that limited physical self the ego presents towards our eternal nature, our spiritual reality.
So if the ego's narrative is all about, you are your job title, your bank balance, how you look today.
Then this lesson is a direct challenge to all of that. The briefing document really emphasizes how the ego uses the body and the world to build this limited sense of self. Lesson 199 says, nope, look deeper.
Okay. So if the body's this temporary vessel, what is the relationship between the vessel and the driver,
Yeah.
the true spiritual identity? How do they connect?
The understanding presented is that our true self, that spiritual essence, is fundamentally distinct from the material world. It's not made of the same stuff, so to speak.
But it uses the body.
Yes, the body serves a purpose within this physical experience. It allows interaction, learning, communication, but it isn't the identity itself.
It's like, I use my phone to talk to people, but I'm not my phone, even if I rely on it a lot.
That's a pretty good analogy, actually. And the phone can break or run out of battery, but the me using it is still there. The lesson encourages that shift in perspective.
Away from the phone's limitations towards the user.
Exactly, away from seeing ourselves as defined by physical limitations, aging, illness, appearance, all those fears, and towards embracing the expansive, unchanging nature of spirit.
And it's not about denying the body exists, right? That seems important.
Crucial point. It's not denial. It's about understanding its correct place, its role, rather than mistaking it for our entire being.
Okay, I'm starting to see how powerful that shift could be. How does this idea, I am not a body, connect with other big themes in the Course, like forgiveness or love? It feels like it must link up.
Oh, it absolutely does. The sources show a really strong connection. Think about forgiveness. If you realize that the person who annoyed you isn't just that annoying behavior or that physical form,
But also a spiritual being, like me.
exactly, then their true nature is that same divine essence, the offense, the irritation. It sort of loses its ultimate power, doesn't it? It becomes easier to let go of.
You're reacting to the vessel's temporary programming, maybe, not the core being inside.
Precisely. Recognizing that shared spiritual identity naturally opens the door to love, to compassion, to seeing unity instead of separation. It undermines the whole basis for judgment.
That makes a lot of sense. It changes the whole game. So the million-dollar question, how do we make this real? How do we move from saying I am not a body to actually feeling it, living it?
Yeah, the practical side. The sources give some clear pointers. One big one is meditation specifically focused on this identity.
How would that look?
Taking time to sit quietly, repeating the affirmation, I am not a body, I am free, and really trying to feel into that. Visualizing yourself perhaps as light as energy, unbound by physical constraints.
Just letting the idea sink in beyond the words.
Yes, repetition and intention are key. Another tool mentioned is using daily affirmations, consciously creating and repeating statements throughout the day.
Like what?
Things like, I am spirit whole and free, or my true identity is light and love, untouched by the world. Whatever resonates. It's about gently, persistently retraining the mind.
Countering that constant chatter from the ego that says you're tired, you're stressed, you're just this body.
Exactly. Now, you asked earlier about challenges. What gets in the way?
Yeah, because it sounds great, but life happens. Pain happens.
Right, and the biggest challenge is often that intense sensory input. When you're in physical pain or feeling strong emotions tied to the body, it's hard not to identify.
So what's the strategy then?
The key seems to be observation without identification, acknowledging, okay, there is a sensation of pain in the leg rather than, my leg hurts, I'm in pain.
Creating that little bit of space. Witnessing the experience rather than being consumed by it.
You got it. It's subtle but powerful. Recognizing the feeling is happening to the body, this temporary vessel, but it doesn't define you, the eternal spirit.
That takes practice, I imagine.
Definitely. And one more practical application mentioned is engaging in acts of kindness and compassion.
How does that connect?
Because when we act from a place of genuine love or kindness without expecting something back, we're actually operating from our true spiritual identity. That's its nature. It's not the ego calculating gain, it's spirit expressing itself.
So those moments are like proof, little glimpses of our real self in action.
Kind of, yeah. The study guide suggests these acts are natural expressions of who we are when we're aligned with spirit.
Interesting. Now, one of the sources had a reflection question. Let me find it. Here. In what ways do I identify with my body and physical circumstances? And how can I begin to shift my perspective to embrace my true identity as a spiritual being? Why is that kind of self-reflection useful?
Because, honestly, most of us identify with our bodies and circumstances way more than we realize. We define ourselves by our health, our age, our job, our relationships, our appearance, all temporary things tied to the physical world.
Things the ego loves.
Exactly. So this question invites you to become aware of those unconscious identifications. You can't shift something if you don't even realize you're doing it.
Bringing it into the light so you can choose differently.
Precisely. Awareness is the first step to consciously choosing to identify with spirit instead.
Okay, so pulling all these threads together.
Yeah.
What's the ultimate significance of this lesson? Why is I am not a body such a cornerstone idea in the Course?
The briefing document puts it really strongly. Its significance is that it strikes directly at the ego's foundation. The belief that we are this limited, vulnerable body is like the ego's home base.
Undermine that, and the whole structure gets shaky.
Exactly. By dismantling that core identification, it clears the way for us to recognize our actual identity, which the Course describes as boundless, loving, unified, eternal spirit. It's the key that unlocks the door out of the ego's prison.
So it's not just a comforting thought. It's fundamental to achieving the Course's goal of inner peace and freedom from fear.
Absolutely. It's central to undoing the whole ego thought system. Freedom from the limitations and anxieties that inevitably come with believing you are only a body destined to decay and disappear.
Wow. Okay, so for you listening, the big takeaway here seems to be your true self isn't limited to your physical form. Who you really are is spirit. And in that identity lies inherent freedom.
That's the heart of it. Your reality is spiritual freedom, not just physical form.
So here's a final thought to maybe sit with after this deep dive. Consider this. If you truly deeply accepted, not just intellectually, but in your core, that you are something beyond your physical body, something eternal and spiritual, how might that genuinely change the way you experience your everyday life?
How might it change your reaction when challenges pop up? or how you connect with other people, or even just your sense of what's possible for you.
Yeah. What might open up if you really live from that understanding is a powerful question.
It really is. We definitely encourage you to reflect on these ideas. Maybe even go back to lesson 199 itself. There's so much packed into that simple statement. I am not a body. I am free.